Didn't look very good, did it? But we see this every day. Club golfers really struggling around the greens, employing techniques that aren't really effective and often hit the ball too far or miss-hit. Thin shots, chili dips, duffs, we see it all the time. And it's pretty soft out here at Monash Country Club at the moment. There's no margin of error. Hit that soft ground and it's a chunk. So we're going to help you through a really good process to help you with your chipping technique and simplify things, give you some margin of error, and help you to chip it closer and get up and down more often. Welcome to Aussie Golf Pros. Okay, let's start with the process. We've missed the green, and the biggest mistake that a lot of club golfers make is they just reach for their sand wedge or the pitching wedge or whatever it is club that they always chip with. They haven't looked at the lie, they haven't looked at the green, and they haven't really started the process of planning a shot. And that's really important. We want to strategize any chip or pitch around the greens, any shot really, because that way we have more understanding of what's happening. We learn from it by watching the reaction of the golf ball and maybe adjusting that strategy next time. And I'm not asking you to remember every shot around the greens that you hit, but your subconscious mind will. But if we don't have a strategy in place, we just go ahead and hit it, then we're not going to learn anywhere near as effectively. So the first thing we can do is have a look at the green, and really you should be doing that walking up to the green. You want to have an idea of the overall tilt of the green. And this green, it runs from right to left, it's slightly uphill to the pin. And what we want to do is start to visualize what the ball's going to do, choose our landing point, that's really key, and then we can choose the club based on the lie and how far the ball's going to roll. So, as I said, it's pretty soft, so the green's not running out very quickly. We don't need sand wedge because we've got a bit of green to work with there. And let's face it, the more loft you use, the riskier the shot is. So if you don't need to use sand wedge or lob wedge, then pitching wedge, 9-iron, 8-iron is going to work perfectly well and more consistently for you. So check out the lie. It's soft, yes, slightly uphill, maybe sitting down a fraction, but it's a pretty good lie. So I'm going to choose pitching wedge for this shot. Now I want to visualize my landing point here. So it's going to break to the left. I'm visualizing just a dark spot there, a few feet on the green, and that's really key because we're changing the target point. So my first shot earlier, my target point was the hole or the flag, and that's what I see a lot of golfers do. Their target is the flag. That's the ultimate destination. We want the ball to go into the hole, that's our goal, but our target has to be our landing point, and that's what's really missing from the plan of a lot of golfers. So choose that landing point, really visualize the ball landing on there. I've chosen pitching wedge, that's going to pretty much spend about half the time in the air and half the time on the ground. Half distance anyway. And we'll get into the technique in a minute. But basically, we're just looking for a simple shot, landing on that spot and bringing it around. Much better result than before. Better technique, but the main thing is a better process. I've put a plan in place, and sometimes the plan might be wrong. I'm not perfect, I make mistakes, and I choose the wrong strategy, I choose the wrong landing point, or I choose the wrong loft, but I learn from that. And it's always about watching a shot, watching how the ball reacts, and then learning from it going forward. All right, technique-wise, so what we saw earlier, a lot of golfers, they get very wide with the stance and too far away from the golf ball. What we want to do with these short chip shots is get quite a narrow stance. That helps us to pivot and turn around. We want to get the trunk involved here, and we want to get closer to the golf ball. The reason we want to get closer to the golf ball is because we want the heel of the club up off the ground a little bit. We want the toe down, because the toe section of the club, of the wedge, sand wedge, 7-iron, whatever it is slightly wider, and it's less likely to grab into the grass. This bit here that's narrow, whenever you chunk a chip or a pitch, 9 times out of 10, it's going to be the heel section, especially if you're too far away from the golf ball and the toe of the club is up off the ground, very easy to snag the grass, chunk your shot. So we're going to get closer, we're going to get more control. Come down the grip a little bit, narrow stance so that we can turn and pivot our chest, pivot our torso around the shot more easily, and we're going to get much more control out of this. Right, so we're looking for an action that is simple. Get your trunk involved, soften the hands. What we saw earlier, very tense, a lot of wrist action, chopping down into it, and golfers wonder why the ball doesn't stop. Softer hands is going to help you to impart a little bit more spin, a little bit more feel on the shot, and it's going to help you with those tricky lies as well. We want the torso, we want the bigger mass of the torso turning through the chip shot. It's going to help the club move through the grass. Again, less chance of getting snagged up in the grass. One more thing that I'm going to talk about here is the club face angle. I'm going to open it slightly. Reason being, that gives me a little bit more bounce on the bottom of the golf club and a bit more spin, a bit more stoppage. I see too many golfers close the club face, especially if they get a bit handsy, and what does the ball do? It runs. A lot of golfers wonder why they can't get the ball to stop. Well, more often than not, they're hooking it. They're reducing the effective loft, not imparting as much backspin as they could, and then obviously the ball's going to roll further. Let's go through that again. Nice and close, stance very narrow, slightly open club face, soft hands, really gentle. My grip pressure is only around 2 or 3 out of 10 here. I'm not grabbing on tightly, really soft. Turn the trunk through and keep it simple. And we're using this technique regardless of which club you're using. If you're a player that just has one club for all of your chip shots, then you're making life very difficult for yourself, because you have to learn umpteen different techniques depending on where you want to land it, how far the ball's going to roll, what your lie is. You've got to keep changing your technique and your swing to suit the surroundings. What about a simple technique that you can use with lots of different clubs, whether it be a 7-iron, 8, 9, sand wedge, gap wedge, lob wedge, even a hybrid, and just choosing the club depending on how far you want the ball to roll. Not how far you want the ball to go, but how far you want the ball to roll. The lower the loft, 7-iron, 6-iron, is going to roll a lot. Get into your wedges, your sand wedge, your lob wedge, it's not going to roll very much. Simple. Don't change your technique. You can change the length of your golf swing to determine how far the ball's going, but you don't need to change your technique. Right, so let's go back to what was happening before. Wider stance, further away from the golf ball, so the toe of the club's up in the air. Tense, wristy, chopping down into it, maybe closing the club face as well, especially if they're very handsy. And maybe using sand wedge, but still not getting the stoppage that you need, and still not getting the control that you need. And the target point being the hole instead of that landing point there. It's just not as effective, it's not as consistent. All right, so it's not always just an easy chip and run. Let's say you're sitting in the rough a little bit, sitting down, pitching wedge isn't going to suit because it's going to roll out further. Let's hit it, let's see what happens. Same technique. Well, there we go. Fluffed it, the lie didn't suit the pitching wedge. I need more loft when the ball's sitting down in the grass and a little bit more energy. And if I did get hold of the golf ball out of that lie, it's not going to stop, it's going to run on. Let's get that nice and low in there. Exactly the same process as before. Ascertain the lie, work out what my landing point is. It's going to come out with less spin, but I've got more loft now. Still going to break to the left, and the setup's going to be the same. Narrow stance, nice and close to the golf ball. Have a practice swing to feel that grass. I'm definitely going to need some longer swing here, some more energy to get through that grass. I'm still going to turn the trunk. I'm still going to get the torso turning through. That bigger mass is going to help the club move through the grass rather than using your hands and your wrists. All right, let's see how we go. Tougher shot, definitely going to need more power. And the extra loft has popped it up higher. Dug into the green a little bit, it's very soft. But you see how I just turned the trunk through to get through that tricky lie, to keep the club moving through the grass. I haven't changed technique, all I've changed is the length of the swing. So let's keep it simple, let's get the big muscles of the trunk involved, It's going to be a lot more stable, a lot more consistent, rather than being very tense, very handsy, and closing the club face. I see this all the time, this flick through here, hooking the shot, and the ball's not stopping. And we're getting a lot of mishits here too. What shot do you struggle with around the greens? Whatever the lie is, we have a solution for it. Pop your comments below, we'd love to hear from you. And if you like this video, then smash that like button, hit the subscribe and the little bell in the corner for your notifications, and we'll be back next week to help you with your game. Are you the best golfer you can be?